Hey, welcome everybody. We are here day two of Master Your Intuition. And we have a really great topic today. We are talking about letting go of control. So I'll just introduce myself to you again. I'm Caroline Rudderman. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I've been teaching Reiki for 15 years. I'm a master healer. I'm a clear channel, so all of the inner senses are sort of combined and interwoven as I'm working in service to support my students. And my mission is really as a teacher is to be to help you be more in control of your life and to connect with your inner nature. So it's never to teach you how I do things, but to understand how you do things and where your natural inclinations and curiosities bring you. Of course, there's always a space where our shadow work comes up, and that is part of the process. Beautiful. So, like I said, my role here is to assist you in curating your natural design. So, I'll just do a very quick recap from day one. Some of you might have already watched the replay or been here live. So, if you need to go back to day one and listen to it, or if you just want to, but I'll just give you a very mini version of what we covered in day one. Um, so I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the primary senses, right? That we learned when we were children, which is like our sight, right? That's how our body recognizes the world around us. Touch, hearing, smelling, and tasting. Right? This is how we have commonly understood the functions of how the body receives information and navigates through the world. And the intuitive senses, which are sort of an extension of our physical senses, are the empath ability, right? It's like feeling feelings and even the thought patterns of being able to really understand the thought patterns that people are experiencing. It's the clairsentience. It's that I don't know how to, I don't know how to explain how I know this information. I just know it. It just kind of comes to me with a clear awareness. That's clairsentience. The third intuitive sense, the third inner sense is clairaudience, where you hear, it's clear hearing. So sometimes you might hear words. It might replay as thought patterns. It might be music that comes through. And knowing that all of these senses tend to weave together, just the same way that when we're eating something, that we might take a bite of it and hear or feel the texture as it crunches, and we might be smelling it and tasting it. There's all these kind of different things that are really are interwoven, and how our inner senses and how our physical senses help us understand and listen to our guidance. So the fourth inner sense is that we are kinesthetic learners and feelers, which is really very physical based. It's very pleasure based. And sometimes it doesn't feel always that good when our inner guidance system gives us a big tummy ache and our stomach starts clenching as the way that's saying, I don't think this is a good idea. Or when we get migraines and our mind and this pain is sometimes saying, absolutely not, I don't like this. But it's very physical, it's very sensational as an inner sense. And then there is the clairvoyance, which is the clear sight. And for some people, that is dreams. For some people, that is images that they might see inside of their mind or actually superimposed on the external world, right? So often when I'm doing mediumship work, I don't often see the like a spirit, but often I will see the image inside of my mind's eye. So there's different ways that we might be seeing images. There's no right or wrong. It's just how your body and how your senses interpret that information. So just kind of knowing that there is a natural overlap between what we were sort of taught as in grade school and as we're growing up with our physical senses and how we navigate the world. And there is also this kind of there's parallel way that we understand our inner senses as well. And they're not separate. They're not the same, but they're not separate. And if you have more questions than what this recap is answering, please go back and watch day one. It's fully available for you. You can always email me, or you can also book a one-to-one session, an expansion session, if you want to kind of go over some of this stuff and explore what your unique superpowers are, what your primary inner senses are. I'm always happy to do the work together, and that's completely free. We have 30 minutes to kind of to play together. So don't hesitate to explore with that. But yeah, the replay from yesterday really we go into depth and we really we hold a lot of space for this energy, for this information. And the last little piece about like yesterday's talk that it's like, why are these senses even important? And it's like the truth is that they make our life easier when we are listening to our inner guidance. It's like life can be a lot more playful. We can experience a lot more trust, a lot more openness. There's so much juiciness that starts happening when we listen to what feels right for us and what feels inspiring and who feels like trustworthy companions, right? I think there's always been those moments where there's a part of you that is like, don't get in that car or don't go down that route, right? There's the guides are telling you yes and no and helping you create ease and flow in all parts of your life. So these intuitive senses are really how we're listening, right? Like, I think that especially for the dog lovers out there, that when your dog is like, I don't trust that person. There's something about their vibe that is like, right? And so that's their dogs have that innate ability. Animals have that innate ability to feel who's trustworthy and who's not, especially as they're navigating, life with humans. Wild animals tend to have a little bit more hesitancy towards humans in general, but the animal species that tend to have a more day-to-day relationship with humans have more of that kind of yes to this person, no to this person. But we have that too. We are not separate from our animal nature. And so when we're talking about the function of these inner senses, how they're guiding us not only to safety, but also to joy and to play and to trustworthiness and being more open and all of these kind of juicy things that our soul and our desires are like, yes, we want more of that. We want more of that. So that's really why we have these inner senses that are guiding us. It's part of our spiritual evolution when we move from the head into the heart. We move from a place of logic and obligation and loyalty and I have to do, right? These societal expectations into a place where we are living through the thing that really lights us up. That's like when that's a huge part of our spiritual evolution. So if you haven't already and you're curious about more of that stuff, please go back and watch day one. It's juicy and delicious and it's all the things. And there's a little bit of Reiki at the end too. So there's some good vibes moving throughout there. So One of the things that I have noticed after 15 years of teaching Reiki and intuition to students is when we start leaning on our intuition, that's kind of where that's a little bit where we have a hard time letting go of control. And that's kind of what we're going to start talking about today. How do we let go of control? How do we start to move into a space where we can trust our intuition? Not only trust the information that's coming through, because sometimes there's a grip around, did I just make that up? And then there's also the like, okay, well, that's a really big leap. How do I feel safe making big leaps? So that's really going to be central around today's class, around letting go of control. Because that's really at the heart of what it is. It's this arm wrestling between our intuition, our inner knowing, and all of this beautiful guidance that we have from our body, from our angels, our spirit guides, our dead loved ones that are like, come play, come have fun. And it's like, but like the logical mind, the ego is like, absolutely not. If I let go of control, everything is going to collapse. I'm going to let these people down. All the worst things start surfacing. All our triggers start emerging. So as we're kind of moving through the class today, as we're talking about letting go of control, we're going to start kind of exploring some of these pieces. So I hope you're ready. So what I really want to focus on today is, you know, one thing that we talked about yesterday in class was these moments of like, oh, I just know how to find good parking space. That's what somebody had mentioned yesterday in class. It's like, oh, I'm just really good. It's like I just know without knowing. Like I trust my gut when I'm like finding parking spaces, right? Like we're not stepping out of our comfort zone when we are looking to park our car, right? There's like a very simple task at hand and we're doing the thing. It really tends to be with the intuitive guidance doesn't tend to come in as it doesn't feel as threatened. The ego doesn't feel as threatened by the intuitive guidance when it is just little things here and there, like, oh, which CD to play, right? Maybe we're not listening to CDs anymore, right? But like, like which music to put on, which movie to play. Sometimes our intuition is just like, oh, choose that one. There's no threat to the ego. There's no threat to the ego when the intuition is just like, like just kind of showing you a little bit of love here or a little bit of playfulness here. The ego tends to feel a lot more threatened. And I say ego, meaning it's like our subconscious. It's the part of us that is desiring safety above all else. Our ego is a very complex topic, but it's essentially the thing that is wrapped around all of our true spirit, our true nature, however you might define that for yourself. It's all of our personality, all of our quirks, all of our trauma, all of our life experiences, all of the things that are kind of driving the bus behind the scenes, right? Like that's a very, very general word for an ego. I uh, I come from a Hindu tradition, so the word ego is part of my spiritual vocabulary. If you identify it as a different word, like no problem. I'm not attached to the words that are coming through here. And of course, my teachings, Reiki and intuition, are spiritual in nature because they're spiritual for me. It's how I connect to myself and other people in the world around me, but there's no dogma, there's no religion. So just know that if that's a sticking point for you and you're like, I don't really like the word ego, that's fine. Just use a different word. Subconscious, right? The shadows lurking, all of that's fine. However you like to identify that. So the ego is threatened when we're taking our intuitive advice around these big leaps of faith, these really big jumps, when we're actually talking about moving from the heart. Because that's what we were talking about a moment ago, is like we're moving um out of this automatic way of living, this kind of like, oh, this reality is set the way it's set. Right, it's all the logic of the mind. And we know, if you've been on this planet for any amount of time, you know that the mind is mistaken sometimes. You know that the mind might make up stories that are so far off from the actual truth, right? We make up stories all the time in our mind that are, the mind is not always here to guide us. It can very well keep us from walking out into traffic, helping us drive our car and functioning and chopping vegetables. But the truth is that when we start moving from here to a heart dimension, a interconnectedness through love on all levels, that dimension of that being, things change in a very different way. Relationships start to feel more fulfilling. Our connection to ourself is very, very different. So there's a lot that happens when we start moving from head to heart. And also, our decision-making process is very, very different when we're making logical decisions to when we're making decisions of, oh my gosh, this would light me up. This is my biggest fear and also my biggest dream. It's like, oh, I wish I could take a year off of work and just go find myself and backpack throughout Europe and just be free. Like the heart like wants freedom. It wants unrestricted growth. But immediately when we come back up to our mind and says, that's not possible. I have to work. You have to make a living. These people are dependent on you. What are you going to do with your cats? Like your sister needs you. The logical mind is going to start fighting for the limitations and the survival because the heart wants unrestricted freedom and the mind is often trying to kind of keep us safe. The ego is trying to keep us in our container. And it only gets threatened. The only time the mind will really start kicking up the fuss is when we start moving into the heart, when we start expanding. There's that censorship that comes in and goes, oh, no, 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 no. And we'll start talking ourselves out and saying, that's really scary. Let's see if we can refine that. Let's see if we can do something. Or, subconsciously we might start procrastinating, or we just forget to follow up on that thing, or it's this idea that comes up for years and years and years, but just never really goes away. Right. So we're talking about like when we start moving into the heart space, we start having different visions of how we want to experience this life and different ideas and different experiences that feel really expansive in that moment. That's when we're talking about the leaps of faith, these like big jumps. And that's when our control, the ego and the mind and the logic are like, no, 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 no. So this is what I mean by kind of the arm wrestling or that grip. There's a place where when we start moving into a more consistent heart space, that you're going to notice that all of your stuff keeps coming up, all of your patterns, all of your fears keep coming up. And in that space, that's where there's actually an initiation that happens. Can we sit with the fear and do what our heart is calling for us for expansion? Can we be present enough to know that our mind is saying limitations are important? It's really important that you don't do this thing because fill in the blank, X, Y, and Z. When we start living with more purpose, more of these fears and this contrast, this grip, this control. I don't like to call it control because it's sort of an arm wrestling between the head and the heart, right? But it's like, oh, how do I get through this? How do I move past these repetitive cycles? That's where the initiation is. And, in addition to things feeling really scary and stepping out of our comfort zone, right? That's what we're talking about by expansion. We're talking about like moving through fear, which is incredibly hard to sit through if we don't have support or if we don't have skills to do that. When I was 16, I didn't know how to sit with my big feelings. I'm 43 now. I had to learn that. I had to learn that. I had to learn how to trust other people. I had to learn how to trust myself, right? And when I was 16, I was just doing the best I could to manage. So all of these safety mechanisms that we learned for survival are going to come up when we start making decisions that are based on the heart. And these decisions that are based on the heart, 9 times out of 10 involve putting ourselves first and really prioritizing ourselves. Like what actually lights you up versus fear and obligation and loyalty and some things that don't even make sense anymore. So this is really what we were kind of talking about as a third chakra issue yesterday, right? There's a sense that like, oh, I want to learn about the inner senses. That's all the intuition. It's all about like being able to hear our guidance. Yes, and hearing our guidance is very important, very joyful, very playful, can create a lot of openings and spaciousness in our lives. And it's the follow through of prioritizing our stuff, ourselves, leaning into these places where we are wanting more joy, taking risks. That's confidence, that's trust, that's faith that the universe is working in our favor, right? And that's really hard because a lot of people have like, like a God that is punishing, right? So when you're talking about like, oh, I know that things are always working out for me, that is a belief system. That's something that you have to tell yourself enough times until that programming sinks in. But if you come from a religious background where you're just like, oh no, if I do that, I am going to hell. And you like, and your nervous system registers that, that's another layer that you have to kind of like pull yourself out of. That's another structure of fear and self-abandonment in many ways. Because prioritizing yourself and putting yourself first doesn't necessarily mean that you're harming others. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're abandoning others. It doesn't necessarily mean anything that is of the stories. It just means that, like, I'm willing to prioritize myself and step into fields of joy. Because when we step into our joy and our true nature, it lights up other people around us. It gives other people opportunities to step into their light. We create more pathways and more networks from the heart. And it is true, when you step into your power and into your confidence, into your trust, other people will respond. Their own triggers will come up. Seeing you get happy will absolutely trigger people. So yeah, your relationships are going to change. Like there's things that happen when we start experiencing a life from living from the heart. And so, is that scary? Is that going to bring up all of our fears? Yes. Yes, it will. And that's what we're talking about there. There's an initiation. And 9 times out of 10, like people start and then stop. They start and then it gets hard, or they get scared and they stop. Start, stop. It's like learning to drive a stick shift for the first time. It's like, and for many people, they just aren't ever going to go there. And I can name four people in my life that I know are not going to ever prioritize themselves. And I love them so much, anyways. But that's not going to stop me from loving and accepting that that's their choice. And also that's not going to stop me from pursuing what's important to me. Even if you have kids, if you go out and get really happy, you will create a solid family network. It's still going to benefit them, even if you prioritize yourself. So there's an initiation. Even if you learned that overgiving and self-sacrificing is how every woman in the family has ever done it. It's not easy. Everybody has their own individual challenges in this initiation of listening to their guidance, knowing what's in their heart, and then taking the actions of following through. Because that's kind of what we're talking about, these big leaps, these big leaps of faith, these big jumps. Because it's the little intuitive stuff that's like, oh, you should try that new flavor. That doesn't affect the ego. That doesn't affect that. Our fear isn't typically going to come up for most people around trying something, here or there, a little sprinkle of intuition. So our intuition is designed to help us flow into these new realities that we want to experience, knowing that we are fully supported. And as we're talking about this being a third chakra issue, it's about our confidence and our knowing that we are supported. And it's like, how the heck do we do that? With all of that mental wrestling that's taking place, like where are we trying to expand on our spiritual journeys? All of that battle. you know and so it's up to you. It's always going to be your individual choice whether you keep moving through the fire of that initiation or if you stop halfway. A halfway initiation is not a complete initiation. I'm not going to call it a failure, but an initiation is you move through the fire until you reach not the destination, but the new vibrational reality that you want, the new experiences that you want, the new ways that you get to stretch your wings and experience this lifetime. So I'm going to give you guys some very practical techniques to help loosen the grip. Because I want you to walk away with today's session being having some skills. And, again, if you are feeling like I'm really in that wrestling space and I just need to be seen and talk it out a little bit, or I don't even know why I've been trying to do this thing for so long and I keep distracting myself, please do not hesitate to book a one-on-one expansion session with me, because that is what we are there to do in that space, is to detangle some of this stuff. It's totally free. It's 30 minutes. It's an opportunity to sit with somebody, and I am a clear channel. I can cut right through. I see it, smell it, taste it, hear it, feel it. I get all of the information and we can walk through it together. But it's never going to be my job to tell you what to do. It's about really helping you connect to yourself so that when you hear that guidance, that you're on your way and you have skills to process the fear that's coming up as you move through that initiation, through those big leaps. So I want you to take a nice big breath in and sigh it out. And for a moment, I just want you to think about the thing that maybe has been coming up for several years. Or maybe there's different incarnations of that thing that you've been wanting to do. Maybe maybe there's like a little entrepreneurial thing that you're like, oh, I'd like to step away from this job and launch into this other thing. Exactly, exactly. Wherever the space is that you are wanting so badly to prioritize yourself. But it's like, but I can't because. So let's just for a moment ignore the but I can't because. So take a breath. Maybe you close your eyes. What is that thing that is the big vision that would be that big leap of faith? Yeah, so soften across the forehead. Yeah, some of you I could just see it was like bloop, it was right on the surface. It's like, oh yeah, haven't thought about that in a while. Soften across the crown, the top of the head. Soften across the whole right hemisphere, whole right half of the brain, the whole right ear. Take a big breath in, sigh it out. Soften across the back of the neck, soften across the back of the skull, the whole back side of the brain. Soften across the whole left side of the brain. Soften across the whole left ear. Soften across the underside of the brain, the whole bottom half of the brain. Take a nice big breath in, and then go ahead and soften the whole brain all at once. Soften the eyebrows, soften across the sinuses, soften across the jaw. Take a big breath in, and go ahead and bring your conscious awareness. Just imagine your conscious awareness is moving into your heart chakra, under the armpits, inside the rib cage, somewhere behind the shoulder blades and the breastbone. See if you can find that place that lives between the heart center and the lungs. As you breathe in, see if you can really feel yourself breathing out. Yeah, see, I want you to see if you can, as you're kind of experiencing the spaciousness in your chest, see if you can find that spot in your chest that feels like, oh, that's a comfortable couch. That's a nice warm hug. See if you can find that place somewhere. It could be towards the back of the shoulder blades. It could be towards the front. But yeah, see if you can find that sensation inside of your chest that feels a little bit more comfortable, like home. It feels like, oh, this is my coat. This is my jacket. This is my love. There you go. You went straight to it. Take another big breath in and sigh it all out. And if you're not sure how to find this place that feels like the warm hug or that comfy chair, please don't hesitate to book your one-on-one. I am here to help you support this journey at every stage. So don't feel if you're noticing a little agitation or a little frustration as we're kind of moving into the body, or if you're just feeling a lot of fear and you're like, it's really hard to be in my body, that is a perfect time to book an expansion session. We'll sit there together. It's free. I got nothing to lose. There you go. All right, so take a nice big breath in. And I want your mind to ask the heart space or that warm, pushy hug, what is my vision? What is my big leap of faith? What is that big jump where I prioritize myself, where I'm really putting myself first? Maybe just prioritizing yourself as a concept might be that big leap of faith. Sigh it out. Yeah, the first sensation or emotion or even thought that comes up, you write it down. You don't have to do anything with it. You just put it down on the page. It's just saying, I see you. All other times that this has come up, or the variations and how this has come up, we have arm wrestled it before we have even put it down. We have fought for control and fought for our limitations, fought for the reasons why that it's not possible. Or we get into forgetful states, or we just get distracted. These are all sneaky ways that the ego works sometimes. Beautiful, you got it. And then I want you to feel into that. See if you can go where the emotion lives in that heart space, that thing that requires the big leap, that big jump, that prioritizing yourself. And then I want you to just feel the emotion that's kind of underneath it. It's like you can feel a pot simmering, you can feel the heat that is the pot itself. But I want you to feel the fire that is heating that spot. So I want you to feel the emotion that is behind that big leap of faith. There you go. You got it. Another big breath in. And I want you to just be present with it. Breathe into it. It might be fear. It might also feel like, oh, that's where my joy lives. That's where I'm a little bit scared to let go because I might be happy. And if I choose happiness, then all of these other people are going to judge me. And all of these other people might tell me that they don't want me around because we bicker as our bonding. There you go. Exactly. Another, whatever stories, whatever, those are just the stories. I want you to see if you can be with the emotion and the sensation and the feeling inside of your body. Because that's how, when we're moving from the heart, we're not always listening to the stories. Those are important as well as we're healing. But when we start experiencing it from the heart realm, we start moving and healing in a different way. And this is when we're listening to our guidance to be like, oh, yeah, it is safe to quit your job. It is safe to quit your job without a safety net if you're pursuing this thing, or even if you're just not even sure where to go. There you go. Just put it on the page. You don't have to do anything with it. Take another big breath in and just allow yourself to just say, okay, that's what it is. If you feel like you didn't get anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to support you. Those expansion sessions are here to help you walk through this. If you need a little extra one-on-one, I know sometimes in the group or as you're watching a replay, you're kind of like, oh, I just need a little more. I am here for that. The link for the one-on-one expansion sessions are in the description and on the replay email and on my website as well on carolinebretterman.com. So I'm going to take a nice big breath in, knowing that there's nothing to be done right now except, yeah, and you might even be feeling a little nervousness just thinking about that. And that's okay. Maybe you just take a moment and really love up on that part. That feels a little scared. And exhale. Does anybody want to share what their leap of faith or their big jump is? There's no pressure, but I just want to make space for the people who are here live. But if they just want to name it, you're welcome to unmute and share. It always helps people who are learning and in different states to, if it feels good for you. It's never any pressure.
Well, Caroline, if I could just mention that for me, leaving work, and this has been very recent, a couple of months, that's been a huge leap of faith. And working, like leaving a fairly structured situation with work, the framework of going to work and seeing clients and so forth, but then suddenly having space to make choices. And it's a bit scary because uh, you do need to prioritize yourself or learn to. For me, in my case, I needed to say, decide, think about what would I like to do now. And I've got the freedom to do what I really would like to do. So it's been a bit of a process, and it's been quite an up and down, like in a flowing way. I've recognized that I will go through different stages, and it's starting to take shape, but it has been a bit of a process, and some days I feel a bit overwhelmed, but getting there. But it's been quite a big leap, but a good in a good direction. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Elizabeth. And when you say it feels a bit scary, where do you feel that in your body?
I uh the stomach, it becomes like an anxiety. I'm feeling more vulnerable and exposed, maybe because I'm not hiding behind what work gave me and being successful at my job. I don't have that. So now I'm standing for myself now. And so therefore I'm feeling and not, I mean, I'm just acknowledging that I'm feeling some days quite vulnerable. And so I'm starting to learn to get a bit more support with from friends and things, different activities that I'm enjoying. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So that's really good information. You're like, okay, when I start thinking about like going into this new space and having so much time and leaving all of this structure and prioritizing myself, I feel all of this stuff. I feel vulnerable and it's in my stomach. It's in my gut. So that by itself is really, really beautiful information. So this is the place when we're starting to just really accept that, like, okay, I'm hearing the information. It's beyond the place of it's beyond the place of sensing it with my body, hearing it, getting the images, feeling the physical sensation of like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Or this other thing really lights me up every time I think about it, really having those physical responses. That's how we're using our inner senses to be like, yes, no, and make these decisions as we're flowing into joy. And then the arm wrestle comes up, right? The letting go of control starts coming up because all the fears and all the vulnerabilities start arising. So I'm going to give you some techniques in just a moment to help loosen the grip. But that first step is just really like getting super present with yourself and being like, what is this thing? Like really acknowledging that like my inner awareness is telling me that like this is the path. This is the path. Being able to locate where we're feeling that sensation, either light, expansive, or joyful, or the fear that's arising with it. Anytime that we're able to bring presence into our body of where we're co-experiencing that, because it's very rarely just in the mind. Our body is always responding to what our thinking thoughts are saying. And I'll give you a little example of this. I think there's a lot of kind of discussion that like the body doesn't know if you are actually at the beach or if you are just thinking about the beach. Because if you go into a meditation where you're like, or go back into vacation where your toes are in the sand and you're hearing the waves and you're seeing all the beautiful birds at the ocean and you're just feeling the sun on your skin and the wind across your face and smelling that salt air. If you really start immersing yourself in that experience, your body starts to respond. And it's the same the other way around. So if you start thinking about something that is really making you so angry, your body is going to be like, "Arr." And you're just doing the same thing. You're sitting in the same chair in the same room, but your mind is but is saying, okay, focus on this, and your body responds. It's not just the focus, it's like the feelings that are also conjured by those thoughts. But the thoughts could also be going to the beach while you're sitting here in this chair in this same room. And then your body can start to soften and melt and feel connected. So it's just a little reminder that our bodies are going to be very responsive to the thoughts that we put in, that the thoughts that we're allowing in our mind. And to some extent, I know we do have a lot of thoughts in our brain every day, but to some extent, we do have control of whether we're going to allow ourselves that thought to, uh, sometimes we're on a roll and we're just like, I'm really worked up right now, right? And we just do our best to kind of change the subject, or, sometimes we need to sleep it off or whatever. Sometimes we're just in an intense mode. And there's definitely some momentum behind that. But when you have a little bit of self-awareness of what thoughts are coming in, you could say, you know what, I've had this conversation with myself enough times that I know it doesn't get me anywhere. Like my own thoughts are very circular, they're very cyclical, and they're not really that pleasant. So I'm always looking for spaces that I can move into the heart because I kind of get bored with this. It's like watching one episode over and over and over and over again. It's not really that fun anymore. So moving into the heart and moving into where my intuitive senses are guiding me is a lot more joyful, a lot more playful, and it's bringing me into places that are sometimes really scary because it demands that I expand. All right, so I've been teasing you long enough. I'm going to give you guys some techniques to loosen the grip when fear starts arising. So class one was all about the inner senses and how they work and how we navigate and how we use them. So this is about really like loosening the control, the fear patterns of control. So get your pen and paper. So the first one is staying true to yourself. I want you to take a nice big breath in, staying true to yourself, because we're talking about the initiation. You're like, okay, this is my dream. This is my thing. Like, I've done the stop start thing again. All of these belief systems are coming up, but like, how do I stay the course through to the other side? This is the initiation. So the part of it is like staying true to yourself and having difficult conversations sometimes. If that does involve that. When you're making choices that prioritize yourself, sometimes we're coming from a place that is saying, oh, I've been prioritizing other people's needs. Not sometimes, always. The why is really important here. Because if we're not connected to that place where we're staying true to ourselves, that why of like, I want to be of service. I want my freedom. I just want to be a wandering poet. I want to put my music central. I want to stop working at this job that makes me miserable and I want to become a healer. I want to do this thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to, when we're talking about making a big leap or a leap of faith, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to burn everything down. Because most of the time, our nervous system would have such a kickback that it might not be, uh, we might not have enough support to just say, okay, I quit, goodbye. But there's slow and steady steps that help us stay true to ourselves and staying connected to that why and having those difficult conversations with other people about why all of this big change is important to you. They don't have to agree with it. You don't have to persuade them. That's not what we're talking about. It's the continual saying, you know what, like I'm worth it. Like this is what we're talking about. It's a third chakra issue. It's the confidence, it's the openness, it's the faith that like I'm guided, I have trust, I know I can do this. I know that I'm supported. So that first step is staying true to yourself. Those difficult conversations, sometimes having some boundaries, letting people know that you might not be available the same way anymore, right? They don't have to all come at once. They don't all have to go smoothly. It's great to have a therapist to bounce some ideas off of with and how to say those words to the people. But the why is really important here. Like it's that motivation. It's like I want that freedom. I want the pleasure of being able to experience the way that I choose instead of feeling like the heavy burden of all this other stuff. So that's step one, not an easy step. Step two is keeping your nervous system calm. And calm might not be the right word because some people are like big energy, right? So sometimes calm could be really energized, but we're talking about keeping your nervous system regulated. For me, this is the big, beautiful world of Reiki. There's a lot of ways to calm your nervous system down, right? There's lymphatic massage, there is, like snuggles with your pets or your loved ones. There is taking a nice bath or shower, hiking. There's no shortage of ways of breath work, right? Yoga, stargazing. There's no shortage of ways of regulating your nervous system. The way that I have done it in my practice, and it's what I teach because it had such a huge impact on me, especially when I was in my 20s and I was just like managing with a lot of alcohol and really just buckets of caffeine, which is really not regulating my nervous system, but it was managing the stress, managing and self-medicating, that I was actually really unhappy and managing all of those feelings. So when we keep our nervous system calm, for me, that has been Reiki. So that is my daily self practice. I'm usually a little bit slower to wake up in the morning. So, that's my time when I snuggle with my cats and I do my self Reiki. Helps me fall asleep at night. So there's kind of regulation supporting my sleep as well, like before and after, the night. It also, I notice that when I'm feeling really anxious, when I'm feeling really scared about something, that's when my mind starts moving a million miles an hour. That's a lot of years of meditation and self-study. I can still feel how fast my mind is moving and also be like, okay, there's something brewing. There's something brewing here. It might not be conscious yet, but when I stay nice and calm, and there's sometimes when I need support, right? Which is what I offer, what I turn to for other people for support is sometimes I need help regulating my nervous system. I need to co-regulate with another person, whether it's through body work sessions, whether it is doing very deliberate like eye gazing and breath work with another person. Like sometimes I really do, not sometimes, like a lot of times I do rely on my connection, sometimes professional, sometimes personal, to kind of really keep me centered and to say I'm scared. And that's also what I offer as a healing professional, as a, as a Reiki teacher, is spaces that you can continue coming together in group to calm ourselves as we're taking these big leaps into the life that we actually want to live and experience. So for me, that's all Reiki. I could talk about Reiki all day. It is my jam. It has transformed my life inside and out. And it's not the only thing that has transformed my life, but Reiki, every time it brings me to center, I'm like, oh yeah, I am like, when I'm present with myself, when I'm calm, I can say, oh yeah, I actually really need touch. And then I'll go and book myself a massage. So it's not just that Reiki is the silver bullet, but for me, it's one of the fastest things that helps me come back to myself, which is number one, staying true to yourself, right? Keeping your nervous system calm, whatever way works for you. Number three, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to email me or type them in the comments. Or if you just, if you want to book that one-on-one session, if you are feeling like any of these steps feel like, "Oh, I have more questions than answers," I am here for it. So that expansion session is absolutely available for you. So number three, so these are the techniques to help loosen the grip as you're stepping into these big expansions into your own initiation. Is tuning into yourself frequently. Tuning into yourself frequently. So this is a little bit different than staying true to yourself, which is kind of like, okay, I'm feeling what I'm feeling, right? I know what I know, connected to the why. It's a little bit different than keeping your nervous system calm. This continual tuning into yourself is the like moment to moment check in with, because we're having responses to the world around us and to our thoughts constantly. So when you're continually connected to what you're experiencing, you're going to be able to say, oh, that's a pattern. Oh, that's a belief system. I don't even know where that came from. Oh, yes, I do. And then you're going to start noticing the patterns when you check in with yourself frequently of saying, you know what? Every time that person says my name, I go on high alert. There's some hypervigilance pattern that I'm noticing. Or anytime that somebody says, can we talk? I get really panicky and I start saying, oh my gosh, did I do something wrong? Like that's when we're tuning into ourselves frequently, when we're continually checking in with ourselves. We start to be like, oh, that's where my belly squeezed. That's when I started experiencing self blame. We start noticing our patterns. So that regular check-in is really, really important because that's the stuff that we can over time, number one, learn to like love and accept, and also flush out of our system because that's kind of the spider web. So that that tuning into yourself frequently, you might also think of that as continual self-observation. It's like, oh yeah, when I'm feeling really lonely, I do tend to overeat. When I'm feeling triggered, I do tend to want to smoke a cigarette. So it's that continual self-observation. What is our body experiencing? What thoughts are emerging? How am I responding? That's really, really important information. And that's a little different than being connected to the purpose. It's a little different than just being connected to a regulated nervous system. It's all kind of the like, okay, moment to moment, I'm allowed to be connected. And the truth is that very few people are at an enlightened state that you're going to be connected to every moment. So it's frequent. The frequency is up to you. If for you it's, every morning and every evening, you're really deeply present with yourself, love it. Love it. Maybe you extend it to, once in the middle of the day at lunchtime. So tuning into yourself frequently is an important piece here. The fourth one, I promise this is a much easier one than one, two, and three. The fourth one is asking for what you want over and over and over again. It is, you can ask the tree outside the window. You can ask the ladybug that is sitting on your windowsill. You can ask your spirit guides and your angels. You can tell your best friend. We're not telling, we ask. And it's fine if you're like, I want $1 million, but underneath it, you're like, I want the freedom to never have to worry again. I want to feel safe in knowing that I'm supported. That's what $1 million represents. When we start asking the world around us over and over, I want to feel safe knowing that I'm supported no matter what. This is what I'm talking about. This is a third chakra issue. And we start asking for it over and over, it almost becomes this affirmation, this prayer. Please bring me the feeling of safety, knowing that I am always supported. And yeah, if you're like, I want $1 million, as long as you're connected to the why, as long as you're asking for that too. And then that's when the little guidance system, all these little shimmers start happening, and your body is like, go to the ice cream store. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you bump into somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen that person in so long. That's when more playfulness, more joy, more openness. That's when our guidance system starts bringing us down the river. So step four is asking for what we want over and over and over again. And just remember that, like, if you actually ask a person, they might say no. They might not be able to provide that thing. But when we're continually asking, not just from people, but from the world around us, from the earth, it can be a total playground. All kinds of things can start forming. And so that's where it starts to get a little fun, a little entertaining. I would also encourage you, if you're really emphasizing step four right now, asking over and over and over again, it really does help to, because sometimes it's like reprogramming some old belief systems of like, oh, this isn't possible, like our own stuff that gets in the way, our own fears, our own limitations. It's really important to keep a little log, like a little captain's log or a journal, to be like, okay, I asked for this thing, and then I asked a bird, and then I don't know why, but I just felt like there was a little tiny branch that just answered me in such a way. Like, even if it seems small or, insignificant or hard to explain to another person, but there was just something inside of you, you write it down. And you start to kind of keep a little bit of a log of like, oh yeah, I am actually starting to notice because there's something about training your brain to recognize the new patterns that you're starting to move into. So I would definitely encourage you, if you're really working hard at step four, of asking over and over and over again, right where you notice there's change. And sometimes the change is like, I feel more neutral about this. That's a huge change. When there's not as much of an emotional grip around it, it pops in so fast. All kinds of gifts can just emerge so fast. So that's a fun one. That is a very fun one. All right, step 5. We have 7 steps, okay? So we're kind of we're getting to the towards the end of this. Step 5 is having people or community. And these are the people that you can rely on to keep your balance. So I have talked to so many people over the years that are just like they're just they're like, I do not have a support network. If I talk to them about my inner world and all of this stuff, like no go. It's just like they would laugh at me. They would just not understand. And that might be a story that you're making up. That might be a real fear. That might also just be a perceived, a perception, a false perception of what that other person is experiencing inside of themselves. But there's plenty of people in your life who might actually be super judgmental. So it's really, really important to have people and community that you can rely on that help you stay in balance. One of the most important parts in the Reiki and intuition mentorship that I find is having the group where it's all of these highly sensitive people that are coming together who are all kind of taking these big leaps in their own ways, prioritizing themselves in their own ways, learning to regulate their nervous system and trust their intuition. It's like you can pretty much speak freely in this community because even though people might have different experiences, they're curious and open to how you are experiencing your intuition. Because they might be like, when you say it, they might be like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. But like I definitely was experiencing that too. So there's a little bit of a safe haven that comes with having other people and community that you can kind of bounce off of, that you can co-regulate with, that you can share your dreams, and they're not going to say, "Oh, I don't believe that." They're not challenging you. And trust me, I think it's very important to have people who offer honest mirrors to our BS because there's plenty of importance to having people give you honest feedback and say, "Hey, listen, you've been saying the same thing over and over and over again. What's really going on?" Like it's really important to not just have people say, oh yeah," but there is also value in people just recognizing where you're at and being fully present and accepting that like this is new and this is important and that this is your vibrant inner world that you are expanding into. So people and community. So that might bring you back to step 4, where you say, please bring me people and community. I really want to have some people I can vibe with about this stuff. I really want to have a space where I can lean into, where as I'm being true to myself, as I'm, um, keeping my nervous system calm, as I'm checking in with myself on a regular basis about what's triggering me and what my patterns are, what I'm observing. Like, I want other people who are like also on their path too, that are cheering me on and I'm cheering them on. Like, please bring me that. Please bring me that. So don't feel like these steps have to go in order. You might be like, oh yeah, I don't have people in community. Let me keep asking for that. Okay, so that's step 5, people and community. Clearing the way is all about, so this is step 6 now. Clearing the way is all about releasing the fears. Okay, so just like Elizabeth was talking about, like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling all of this vulnerability in my belly. I like feel it in my stomach and my gut. That's where we go in and we learn to do our shadow work, which is the parts of ourselves that we've sort of buried and said, I cannot possibly accept this part of myself, where we've bullied it into submission in some way. So all of the work that we do to like release the fears, again, for me, that's Reiki. Some of that is naming it and feeling it and seeing it. As a master healer, my gift is we can just cut through the nonsense. And I say nonsense with love. But we also know that a lot of that isn't true, but it feels true. And it's in our system. And we still need to approach it with love so it can feel safe to release. All healing work is done from safety first, which is again, step two, calm nervous system, feeling safe. If we don't feel safe, if we're in fight or flight or freeze, you're not going to get any significant healing work done. You're not going to be able to release the fear fully until you feel safe. The irony, the irony in a lot of this is that when we start feeling safe, more fear comes up. When we start feeling safe, more we get to a place where we start to express our humanness more fully. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we're never going to experience like fear just because we're more regulated, but we're going to have more resilience. We're going to have more of a support network. We're going to have more tools to process, love and accept, and release the energy. And again, that is what I teach. That is like at the heart of what I do. My goal as a teacher is to empower you with all of these beautiful skills and tools. That is like, mwah, that is my divine purpose. And that's why I also fold in a lot of the like the one-on-one sessions because sometimes we can only take it so far by ourselves. Like for so long, I was always like, I can do it myself. I can do it myself. I don't need anybody, and I don't want to burden anybody. I don't want to, put anybody out. I was like, that was a story that I held for a really long time. And then, I kind of went through some stuff where it kind of cracked me wide open and I could not do it by myself. And I had to get support. And that wasn't even that long ago for me. So, this stuff can blossom at any time. At any time, right? Like the journey is like being present with whatever stages are coming up for you. Okay. So releasing the fear is something that is challenging because fear is a very strong emotion. It's a very, very strong physical sensations, and we do need some skill building to be able to release the fear and a feeling of safety and trust. Okay, so again, that is like root chakra and third chakra issue, being able to release that fear. And step seven, here we go, is continually taking the steps. So it is not enough just to feel the fear, to let it go, to be doing the energy work. It's not enough to be talking about it and asking. It's not enough to be sort of following our inner guidance and being like, oh, that's like fun and delicious and synchronistic. It's like, it's also taking the steps. It's also time blocking it and putting it into your calendar. Especially if you notice that um, part of your like ego self-sabotage is sort of getting distracted or procrastinating. It's like you got to put it into your calendars. So like you also have to do the steps. So you got to feel the feelings. You got to release the fear. You got to be present and love and accept all that stuff. And then you actually still have to do the thing. These are the 7 steps of the initiation. And it's not just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like 7, 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 2, 2, 5, 3, 4. It's like these are all interwoven steps. Because one of them is going to come up, you're going to be like, oh man, I'm really needing community. Oh, right. I'm going to keep asking for this. I'm going to keep asking for this. Oh yeah, my nervous system, I'm starting to feel some stuff. I'm going to get regulated again. I'm going to keep checking in with my body. So these are the seven major steps as you're moving through into these big leaps of faith. Because the old training is stay safe, keep doing the things you know, stay in your comfort zone. So when you are stepping out of your comfort zone, like these things have to be in place to some degree. These are the parts of the car, right? Like you can't drive a car without a steering wheel. The car is not going to move if it doesn't have four wheels, if it doesn't have an axle. You're not going anywhere. So these are the seven steps of really moving through the initiation. And again, like these are spaces, these are containers that I love holding for people. So if you're unsure about any of these steps or anything that we've really covered tonight, don't hesitate to book the expansion session. We can work through this stuff. We can kind of really bring a lot of clarity to the roadmap that is uniquely yours. It doesn't have to be the way that I do things, but if you're just like, oh yeah, breath work always gets me calm and relaxed and present in my body. Love that. Love that. If going and sitting with trees or taking a walk is always what helps you regulate your nervous system, I love that. It doesn't have to be my way. It's designed to be what falls in line with what the resources that you have available and really what lights you up and where your intuition is guiding you. Okay. So feel free to put your questions in the chat, email them to me, book your expansion sessions. I'm very much available for anything. So what I'll do, if you do have questions for the live people, you're welcome to just come off of mute and ask. I'm going to begin flowing 15 minutes or so of Reiki, so you can kind of just settle in. I know we've covered a lot today. This is all about like letting go of control. And it is not easy to arm wrestle with the ego when we're moving into these heart spaces, into these bigger visions of ourselves. But if you do have if any of the people live or here and you have questions, feel free to come off of mute as the Reiki is flowing. There you go. Another big breath in, sigh it out. And the last little thing that I'm sort of hearing as a message is just a reminder that like you don't always have to know where you're going. When you get that intuitive information, you can take 100 baby steps that are where your intuition is guiding you. You might not necessarily have a capital V vision. Beautiful. Another big breath in. Sometimes your inner awareness is like, I just don't want to do this anymore. And that's step one. That's like staying true to yourself, right? And you might jump to step four and you say, what else is out there? Please show me what else is out there. And then all of a sudden you're watching a documentary about whatever, bird watching or something. I don't know. Beautiful. You got it. Another big breath in. Exhale. And for anybody who might be watching the replay, I don't tend to keep my hands up when I'm beaming Reiki. I just kind of keep them down a little bit. That's my style of how I flow Reiki virtually and distantly. So sometimes if you ever watch YouTube videos, a lot of times their hands are up, but for me, it's a little bit more comfortable to have my hands resting. So just so you can kind of get a feel for my work table. And exhale. You don't have to have a purpose-driven life to know that your purpose is just not this thing anymore. The no's are just important as the yeses. Beautiful. Another big breath in and sigh it all out. You got it. Take a nice big breath in and sigh it all out. Just simply recognize that even talking about the big jumps and the big leaps of faith might have brought up some fear for you. So, this is a time just to really invite your nervous system to settle down, to be held by another person, community. Even though these are seven very practical steps, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're simple or that they're easy, but they are designed to invite expansion and to help you move into these new vibrational pathways, these different experiences, these different realities. And for those who are curious, I'm working at your crown at the very top of your head as well as your feet right now. So maybe some of you are feeling that or witnessing that in your own system, or maybe not. A big breath in. Exhale. There are no perfect decisions here. Our goal is not perfection. That's the ego version of moving forward. The heart-centered way is feel your feelings and do it. There you go. Another big breath in. Exhale. I'm working across the nose and the mouth right now, as well as the upper abdomen. There you go. We'll do a few more minutes together. Take another big breath in. Just sigh it all out, all of yesterday, all of last night, all of the last few days. This has been a particularly intense eclipse period. Exhale. Just allow the softening. There's nothing to be done except for being present for yourself right now. You've got it. Another big breath in. Exhale. It's just a little mini session. Maybe you're feeling something, maybe you're not. That's okay. Nice big breath in, sigh out. We've got a little bit of belly issues around fear, so I'm gonna work on the around the tummy and the fear a little bit. Gorgeous. You got it. Another big breath in and sigh it all out. Ooh. Working on the sides of the face, front of the ears, the temples, sides of the jaw. Beautiful. One more big breath in and exhale. Kind of keep the Reiki flowing as we're coming to a close. So I just want to really remind everybody that, the when we're talking about mastering our inner senses and mastering our intuition, it is guiding us towards joy and expansion on our spiritual path. It can absolutely be a parlor trick, right? Be like, I talked to your dead uncle, Peter, and he had some things to say. Ha ha. That's fine. We love that. And also, there can be very deep healing, deep expansion as we're moving into the parts of ourselves that we want to become. This is really the truth of mastering our intuition. It's not just the inner senses. and how we're feeling and what we're navigating and manifesting little things. It's about moving into deeper truths within ourselves, staying true to our nature and our inner world, living the life that we desire. And this is when we're talking about really, that battle between the mind wanting to control and the mind wanting to create safety and keeping us contained. And as we move into the space of understanding how it feels to live from the heart and from this different dimensional awareness, it's really about feeling into what's possible. So, your homework for tonight is I want you to just sit with your thoughts and your fears about what's possible. I want you to sit with your fears and your thoughts around what is possible. That can look like a lot of different things depending on what your vision for this reality is. Is it possible for me to relax into having a lot of time and leisure and loving myself and knowing that I'm enough and that I have enough? Is it is it possible that I can exist without being helpful to somebody? That I can just be loved without having to overgive? So I want you to just sit with your thoughts and your fears around what is possible and bring that tomorrow to class. We'll be teaching you more very practical skills about a little teaser anyways will be about practical skills about learning to make vibrational decisions. So in the middle, when we get all caught up in our fear and our mind is telling us one thing and we get all confused and we get into the bog of like, I don't know which way to go. I don't know which way to go. We're going to start exploring different ways of like, okay, well, how do we get nice and centered and calm? And how do we feel into this versus this option? So that'll be a little piece of what we do. So there'll be more building into very practical skills of how do we use and apply our intuition as we're moving forward, as we're just making decisions, as we are really stepping outside of our comfort zone. So I just want to thank everybody who is here today and tonight. I really value you, and I appreciate that you're learning and getting clarity, and all this kind of information is finding a place for you. All right, so the replays will be going out, so feel free to watch again, book your expansion sessions. I love to hear feedback for what you're experiencing and how I can support you. I'm here for it. All right, everybody. So have a great evening and be well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Night.